A very good morning to all of you. It's indeed a pleasure to meet so many people in person after 2+ years. So I couldn't resist the temptation to say yes to 𝗪𝗂 the moment she reached out. So thank you, 𝗪𝗂, for that. And thank you all for making it in the morning here today. It's always a pleasure when you can meet with your colleagues and learn from one another. So I'm clearly looking at this session as a forum where we learn from each other. And I think the challenges that we all faced in the last 2 years is something that we can all talk about, because unlike the past, where it was some country, some company, some unit which went through its ups and downs, the COVID was a kind of equalizer, because I can say across the globe, across every sector, across every company, across every HR professional, the one thing that really bothered us in the last 2 years is how do you ensure business continuity despite all that happened. Now, it was not easy. Very clearly, it was not easy, because we must be cognizant of the number of lives lost. A lot of my colleagues who worked on the same floor, it's not easy when you lose them to something which should not have happened, right? So it was traumatic for a lot. And while a lot of companies can say that, we managed to be productive through the 2.5 years and, business continuity was ensured, well, the strategies that each company has in terms of long-term strategies, I'm fairly confident nobody thought of a COVID that will hit you, and how do you really arm yourself for a crisis like that. But the good news is that technology came to the fore, and which is why the emphasis on modernization becomes so important, because it was a lesson well learned by a lot of companies which perhaps did not invest in the kind of technology that they should have. Now, the one thing that we were lucky, fortunate, is being in the IT services sector. It became simple for us to say, okay, that means that employees will immediately start working from home. But it also meant that when I say you work from home, what happens to that big, huge desktop that was there, in the office? How do you ensure that you can kind of ship these to their homes? Now, obviously, you have to kind of be smart in terms of saying that, well, it's not laptops, maybe, but I'm going to ship these computers to your homes. So there was an entire logistical arm that was built up to ensure that the computers were shipped. You had the network connectivity. You had the requisite infrastructure which could make you productive, because it's not everybody who kind of had the home infrastructure in place to suddenly overnight start working from home. So these are good learnings, and I think it was a good learning for the corporates as well, to say that, and believe me, a lot of clients, especially the banking clients, they were so anal about people coming only to office and in that secure environment, and my data and what happens to this and so on and so forth. Well, all that vanished overnight, because they were completely comfortable with the continuity happening, even if it was from their homes, which was not secure. But a few important aspects for a lot of companies was, you must invest in the right tools. You must invest in the right security angles, because it can get crazy if your security is compromised, right? So a lot of investments from the organizations on the technology front, which was critical. I think that takes care of what the companies did. But let's go to the homes, because, suddenly you had too many people in the home. You're not used to everyone trying to get that bandwidth for logging in, because kids were having their schools. Suddenly, both the spouses, if they were working, it was a nightmare, because who sits where, which conference call will you take? And I think the good part is most organizations, I would say, were flexible with saying that, you need not come on the video all the time. And I remember, at least, it was a nightmare for me when we started, and it was not so much on space, but it was just the feeling that, I need to get out of my pajamas and get into something decent if I had to come on video. But I think overnight, because, and when it started, at least, I'm sure nobody thought it was going to be for this long, right? It was probably a week, 10 days. We'll figure it out. We'll get over it. So this is my period of bliss. So let me just enjoy it. Let me just take all those calls in my pajamas, something which I've been yearning to do. And voila, everything was in line with what I had hoped for. It's just that we didn't realize that it would be for this long, and hence the mindset shift to say that if this is going to be a regular feature, then how do we get disciplined about the work from home? I would say a big kudos to the families, because it's not easy. You've invaded my family space, right? Your workplace has suddenly become the home, and I was not tuned to, lending my home for the office work to get done. So I think companies had to appreciate that families were making a huge sacrifice to ensure that business continuity. So I think a huge set of learnings, and like Sunita said, if technology hadn't come to help us, I'm sure we would not have been able to deliver what we did in the last 2 years. The good part is that a lot of clients which didn't think of modernization, which thought that it was fine to get people in the offices and get that manual work done, I think a lot of clients have also realized, and which is why probably the spend on the IT side has gone up for a lot of customers, because they realize that if they have to seriously remain competitive going forward, that investment in technology is absolutely required. So any organization which thinks that you can go ahead, go back to the past ways of working, forget it, because I think even the employees have moved on. I was just talking to Abhishek, and a very key point that, look at the technology in the market, right? Look at the way you shop, look at the way you buy things. So if that's the pace at which you're seeing technology outside, obviously your basic expectation is that my office should be able to do the same thing. I don't want to be working on clunky, major software that you've developed some 20 years ago, which is not with the same speed and slickness that I see outside. So I think this is a huge learning for a lot of the companies to invest in that technology if they really have to remain relevant. Fast forward, I think we've all gone through our share of pain and happiness and whatever, during the COVID. And now's the time when we're slowly looking at coming back. So, I did see a lot of happy faces in terms of just meeting one another, which is good, because that's what keeps humans really going, right? We need that connectedness. We need to see people. We need to connect with people. And there's only so much that tile can do for you, right? When you're doing remote. And but some things that we have learned is that you clearly can't go back to the old ways and tell employees that, it's 5 days of working, 8:30 to 6, you swipe in, you swipe out, number of hours logged, etc., etc. Well, you may be high-handed in terms of saying that, but I think employees have a choice today. And that is something that we as HR leaders should be cognizant of, because you've seen it. Employees are voting with their feet. You've heard about the Great Resignation. So why is it happening? Have you really delved in to understand what are employees saying, right? And if you really ask me, a lot of things have changed because the context has changed. So it's not that people haven't kind of talked about it earlier, but you may not have given it that much of importance because, well, people may not have been attriting in these numbers. You still had your business running profitably, so you thought that it was okay to kind of have these policies, processes. But believe me, if we are not willing to relook at our policies, if we are not willing to relook at the way we do things, it is not going to be easy going forward. So what are employees saying? A few, I know that, it's just 15 minutes and I don't have a timer, so Diksha, you'll have to just let me know. A few things that people are stating quite openly now, right? The first one is to say that, don't treat me like an employee anymore. treat me like a person. Treat me like a person for the simple reason that I don't want to be, the only reference point cannot be my employee number so-and-so and what I do for you, right? I need that connect to be larger. I need you to know my family. I need you to know what my needs are, right? And that's not something that the employers were comfortable with. If you remember in the past, we were like, I don't want to know too much about, who you live with, what you do, your home front, your dog. No. You just bring yourself to work, do the work, and that's it, right? But you've seen, on the calls, you've seen the extra effort that is made to actually connect with the larger families, because they are the ones who actually gave you that space to work in and be comfortable in the last 2 years. So they've made a sacrifice. You have to acknowledge them. You have to acknowledge that there is a life beyond that video call that these employees are taking. So, and employees are stating, well, I want you to know, right? I want you to know what it is back at my home, right? And I want you to know that I am not just employee number XYZ, but understand me completely, understand me as a person. Now, that's difficult. But I think we have to kind of change our own ways. Like I said, we're not comfortable with it. We've not done it in the past. But it's important that we relook at that aspect of treating that employee as a whole rather than just what does that employee do for you at the office hours. The second thing people are saying is, and they've gone through it, right? We talk about well-being. We've been talking about well-being for a long time. But what about the mental aspects that people went through in the last 2 years? And I'm not just talking work, because you've gone through deep periods of trauma, right? It's not easy to lose a close partner, parents. So it's difficult. And people are saying that, well, all of this added up, right? It has added to the stress that I've gone through. And if the only expectation is those calls which last from morning to night without a break, I'm sorry. Now, the ease with which you can book meetings, believe me, has also gone up significantly, right? All I need to do is look at that calendar, whichever one slot, go and smash in one meeting there, right? And you don't care whether it is damn in between two meetings or not, but there was a free slot available, so I just went and booked in that slot. But the point that people are saying is, look, it's not to say that, I want to work only X hours. It is just that there is a life beyond just work, right? And appreciate me for that, because well-being globally has been understood that if you don't invest in the well-being, and by the way, well-being doesn't mean that, okay, you walk so many steps and you will get some goodies at the end of it, or, so there's all those tricks and tips that have come in from a lot of companies to say that, well, I will track the number of steps, I will do this, I will do that, I will do one yoga session in the morning. But I think what they're saying is, well, all of this can happen on the side, but do you truly invest in the well-being of your employees, right? And that's become extremely important. The third and the big one that I'm seeing is a larger sense of purpose. And I think most employees are now voting for that, to say that I don't want to be working in a company which is only about doing business and being profitable. Of course, you need to be profitable, right? The reason you exist in business is to be profitable. But if the only existence of this company is to be profitable, then I'm sorry, because you have to have a larger cause, you have to have a larger purpose, and employees want to see companies with a larger purpose. Now, fortunately for us, this is not something that was that came into being only in the COVID times. If you know the 𝗖cie𝗹𝗹𝗯𝗲 Foundation and what the chairman has been doing for years together, it's all about the larger community, the giving back, and to the extent that, I don't know how many of you read it, but we converted an entire software center in Pune into a hospital. We made it a 450-seater hospital because there were no hospitals available, right? the amount of food that got cooked for feeding the migrant laborers was not funny, right? Day in, day out. So I think people want to be associated with organizations that have a larger sense of purpose to the community, to the climate, to inclusion, rather than just saying, here I am to make money. So if one has not thought about it as yet, I think it's important for you to articulate as a leadership group what that purpose is for the organization's existence, because people who join that company want to have that larger sense of purpose when they're working for that company. The fourth thing that people have kind of come back and said is, I'm here for learning, I'm here for growth. And when I say growth, I'm not just talking about that vertical ladder that you give me, in the name of a promotion. No, I'm talking about a growth which will make me more whole as a person, right? And learning comes in all forms and shapes, right? So I think the investment that you need to do on learning becomes that much more critical, because people have realized, that skill is relevant only for a period of time. Look at the way technology has really moved so fast in the past few years. So I could be very critical for that project, right? But what happens to my value the moment that project is over? How many more companies are going to invest in technology which is not as current? So you heard Sunita talking about, am I an AI specialist? Am I a full stack specialist? So people want to learn, and people want to grow, not just on that vertical ladder as much as on an entire career spectrum that they can kind of dabble in. And the one thing that wasn't talked about is, for someone like me who's done an engineering background, didn't want to do coding, joined sales in Wipro, and after doing sales wanted to move into HR, which was again a very crazy pattern one would have taken. But the point I'm trying to reiterate is that you have to give these kind of lateral moves to people who want to dabble in things and want to grow, not just, so it was easy for me to say that, okay, if I've done engineering and I have to goddamn do coding, then maybe that's the only career path that's available to me. But the fact that they were willing to say, okay, you may have done this, but if you want to dabble in this, then well, this is a path that is there for you. We know enough and more companies which say, okay, if you've got to become an HR professional, then first show me your MBA degree, show me what you have, blah, blah, blah. But here's a company which said, okay, you have the passion, we'll check out whether you have the competence, we'll try you out, but if you're good, then fair enough, you can move in. So I think this is the kind of paths that you need to make going forward, because the younger generation is more restless than the past, right? They want to constantly learn, they want to constantly keep, trying new things, and until and unless we're able to show them that path, it becomes difficult to kind of hold on to them. And finally, the point on culture, right? So we started something called the 5 habits, just before the pandemic. And believe me, I don't think we could have ever timed it better, because we started it in Jan 2020. Of course, a lot of things in Wipro that made us do what we did, because we had a new chairman, Mr. 𝗖cie𝗹𝗹𝗯𝗲 stepped down and his son came in. And he went around talking to people, and he tried to understand what is it. That was a time when, all said and done, the business performance at Wipro was not at its peak, right? And there were things that were ailing, not so much in terms of our strategy, but probably just in terms of the way people were working, the way we were collaborating, the way we were working, the way the targets were set, the way we looked at internal competition so fiercely that, we kind of forgot what the external market looked like. So 5 habits which were so basic that people actually came back and told me, are you serious? You really want to talk about this? And my point is, try living it every day, right? Try living, being respectful every day. And when I say respectful, it's not to say that you can't state your point of view because you're scared if the other person will consider it as not in line with what they wanted. But the fact is, can you state it without being rude? Can you state it without raising your voice? Can you raise it without shouting, right? And believe me, nerves are up, right? Because there's work to get done. You do get frustrated. But at no point can you be disrespectful to that individual, because people are clearly thumping their fist and saying, treat me like a person, treat me with respect. Otherwise, you know, I don't think I have a place here. We talked about being responsive because, and again, being responsive, not to say that, you know, the moment the mail comes in 2 minutes, I need to respond. But you need to respond, right? And there are so many mails which are unread. You're just okay about the fact, and you may even want to cover up saying, okay, but I was busy, sorry, right? You have to be responsive to your colleagues because that's a sign of respect. If I've asked you something, obviously I need help, which is why I've come to you. Otherwise, why would I even ask you for that? The third on always communicating, and this was so critical in the COVID times, because if you just assumed that people were working somewhere in some corner and you didn't really need to check in, a lot of times we encouraged leaders to say, you don't need to discuss work, right? Just call them and just find out if they're okay. And that itself made a world of difference, especially when you're working from home, not seeing people, right? So that always communicating came in good measure, especially, you know, thanks to the fact that everyone was working remote. The fourth on demonstrating stewardship, and we said, no individual is greater than the organization. Organization comes first, right? So it's not about you, it's not about your unit, it's about the company. And the company's success is all that matters finally, right? So how do you practice demonstrating stewardship, especially when you're dealing with your colleagues, especially when you're dealing with your team members, to ensure that they think Wipro first and not about themselves. And the last, most critical one was on building trust. Because if I did not trust the organization, if I did not trust my manager, if I did not trust my team, there is no way that we could have survived. So the 5 habits came in really handy, and believe me, the culture transformation that I'm talking about was a huge piece during the COVID, and by the way, it continues, right? So it's not something that we said is the COVID flavor, but it's something that continues, which the chairman continues to take these sessions for employees. So we've kind of ensured that the entire leadership, which is almost 30,000 of our employees, get to hear it from the chairman himself. And the rest of the 200,000 employees will get to hear it from their managers and their managers as we take it through the organization. So the only point I want to leave you with is, while workforce modernization is important, you must invest in it. You must look at your employees in a more holistic sense, because they are people. They are people who stepped in. They are people who lent their family spaces to you, who kind of ensured that productivity didn't dip, ensured that business didn't drop. And if you don't treat them in a way which is a place of belonging, it is going to be difficult if it is going to be just a transaction, however great that experience for that transaction could be. And the only way you can do that is the glue of culture, because until and unless you have that solid glue of culture, all your performance management, all your other experience, etc., that you want to drive will not function as effectively if you've not invested in the culture transformation itself. So that's what I thought I will leave you with. Deeksha, do we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions? Yeah? So 1 or 2 questions before I exit. If there are any, of course. No pressure.
Any questions? I have a mic.
Yeah.
Let me start.
Hi, Sunita. I'm Vijaya from Infinite Computer Solutions. I head the HR.
Hi, Vijaya.
It's a great message from you. With all these things, you've mentioned about great resignation year. People are, this is a wave, this is a bubble, people are making hay when the sun shines. So what are your thoughts on, will this bubble burst ever? or if so, when? And how do you deal with this bubble of resignations and people moving just for, money?
So Vijaya, two things I would say. One is pay attention to what people are saying, because, and again, I'm just comparing what our numbers look like vis-a-vis other IT companies which are in the same boat. I can console myself with the fact that we are lower when it comes to that, but the fact is it is still high, right? But there is a dip. There is a dip happening, at least that one can see. But I think there are some clear messages, Vijay. So my only point is, if you are genuinely open to listening to what those are, of course compensation will be one of it, right? Now, it could also be that you go to a point where compensation strategies are unsustainable. So I think people should understand that there is a limit to compensation also moving up, because you will have to, and I have, by the way, I also handle comp and ben. So I continuously tell my leaders, I definitely want to pay leaders more, right? But you show me the business, show me something which is profitable, because don't tell me that, I will continue to do the same or lower margins, but I want the moon for employees, right? So it works both ways. And by the way, it's not just the leaders who make that money, it's also the employees. So are you able to take them into the fold and show them that path? So for example, what have we done for campus? We're not telling them only the 1-year story. We're telling them what your path will look like all the way to 5 years in this company, right? And trying to tell them that, look, if this is what you do, then actually you can earn this. This is what will happen at this point in time. So as long as you're able to show them the roadmap, as long as you are fair on the compensation, as long as people feel that someone's listening and taking actions, I think you will see a dip. And we're already seeing a dip from what it was last year at least. But I don't think it'll go back to the previous, because there is a demand. See, what we should understand, Vijay, is there is a demand in the market. Especially if you are a full stack engineer, if you have the right skills that companies want, there is a hot demand for you. So obviously people will capitalize on it. Yeah.
So my question is, essentially, there are a lot of people now who are joining the organization, and organizations like yours. If work from home starts, it's very difficult to drive culture, at least in organizations like mine, because they're not coming to office, they're not speaking with us, they're not seeing what the vibe of the organization is. So how do you really drive that culture within the org when somebody's, let's say, permanently working from home?
So I think permanently working from home, I don't think Wipro will ever go down that path. And for this exact reason that you spoke about, culture building will not happen until and unless you really know that individual, you feel that individual, you hear that individual, not just, for that work meeting. So I don't think we will ever go down that path of you can work from home permanently. Of course, we will provide the flexibility to say that there is a hybrid working, but we do want to build culture by ensuring that you experience what it is to work together, to collaborate. Where will innovation happen if you're not meeting with people and you're not discussing and debating things? So, well, people can ask for it, but I'm fairly certain that they themselves will want to come back. Even if it is not to work, at least for the happening moments, they will want to come back into the office. And you'll have to make it interesting. The other point I tell the leaders is you have to make it interesting for them to want to come back, right? So how do you kind of interspace just work with a lot of things which makes it exciting for people to say, hey, I want to go to work today. So great. So with that, thank you very much. It's been a delight to meet so many of you. And thank you, Deeksha, for the opportunity. And have a lovely rest of the day.